Julia was 16 when she took her first babysitting job for the Henderson family. Their home was an old Victorian house, creaky and full of antique furniture. Julia had to watch over their 6-year-old daughter, Emma, while the parents attended a wedding. Emma was shy but friendly, and Julia quickly got her settled with a bedtime story. After Emma fell asleep, Julia went downstairs to relax on the couch with her phone. About an hour later, the landline phone rang. Surprised, Julia answered. A low, raspy voice whispered, "Check on the girl upstairs." Her blood ran cold. She stammered a response, but the caller had already hung up. Thinking it was a prank, she hesitated before creeping upstairs. Emma was still tucked in bed, fast asleep. Julia sighed in relief and returned downstairs. Half an hour later, the phone rang again. Same voice, deeper this time. "She's not alone in that room." Julia slammed the receiver down and bolted upstairs again, her heart racing. She opened the bedroom door. Emma was still in bed, but something was off. The closet door, which had been shut earlier, now stood slightly open. Julia quickly shut it, trying not to panic. She went back down and turned the TV on for noise. At midnight, the phone rang a third time. "Too late. He's already inside." Julia dropped the phone in terror and ran upstairs, nearly tripping over the old steps. She burst into the room. Emma was awake this time, sitting upright, eyes wide with fear. "There's a man in the closet," she whispered. Julia yanked the closet door open, but no one was there. When the Hendersons returned, Julia told them everything. They exchanged a grave look. The father admitted that years ago, a previous tenant of the house had vanished under mysterious circumstances. The police had searched but never found the man, only his belongings, left inside the closet. Julia quit babysitting after that night. Emma later confessed that the man still came out of the closet sometimes, and he always asked where Julia had gone. Mia was a college student who often babysat in her neighborhood for extra cash. One Friday evening, she was hired to watch over a 3-year-old boy named Danny while his parents attended a late-night dinner party. The parents had left her with clear instructions: put Danny to bed by 8, keep an eye on the baby monitor, and help yourself to snacks in the kitchen. The night started quietly. Danny was sweet, though he clung to her as if afraid of something. When she tucked him into bed, he whispered, "Don't let the man in the corner get me." Mia brushed it off as childhood imagination and reassured him before turning on the baby monitor. She settled into the living room with her textbook and occasionally glanced at the monitor's small screen. For the first hour, Danny was asleep, shifting only a little. But then, around 9:30, Mia noticed movement in the room. At first, she thought Danny had gotten out of bed. But as the grainy night vision image became clear, her stomach dropped. There was a tall shadow in the far corner of the room, where Danny had pointed earlier. The figure just stood there, unmoving, yet unmistakably human-shaped. Mia froze, gripping the monitor. She rushed upstairs, flung the door open, and saw nothing but Danny asleep in bed. Shaking, she turned off the monitor thinking it was a glitch. But as soon as she returned downstairs, Her phone buzzed with a notification from the monitor's app. Movement detected. Against her better judgment, she opened it, and there he was again, taller, closer, standing right by Danny's bed. Heart pounding, she sprinted back upstairs, but the room was empty except for her trembling charge. Now panicked, she called the parents, urging them to come home immediately. As she waited, she heard faint footsteps in the hallway outside Danny's room. She peeked out, but no one was there. When the parents arrived, Mia was nearly hysterical. They calmed her, checked every door and window. Everything was locked tight. Finally, they told her something that made her blood run cold. They had installed the monitor because Danny often complained of a tall man who stood in his room at night. They assumed it was just nightmares, until Mia confirmed she saw him too. From that night on, Mia never babysat at that house again. And Danny's parents? They eventually moved, but not before Danny whispered to Mia during her last visit. "He's not gone. He follows me." Claire was babysitting for a wealthy couple who lived in a newly built suburban home. Their daughter, Lily, was only 4, and Claire enjoyed reading her fairy tales until she fell asleep. The house was spotless, almost unnervingly so, with bright white walls and glass windows that reflected everything. Around 10 o'clock, Claire heard the garage door open. Relieved that the parents were home early, she got up to greet them. But when she reached the front hallway, she froze. 2 figures stepped inside, but they weren't the Hendersons she had met earlier that evening. These people looked almost identical, same clothes, same smiles, but their faces seemed wrong. Their eyes were too wide, their smiles too stiff, like poorly made masks of the real parents. They greeted her warmly, but something in their tone chilled her. Trying to stay calm, Claire excused herself and hurried upstairs to check on Lily. The little girl sat up in bed and whispered, "Those aren't my mommy and daddy." Claire's stomach dropped. She locked the door, grabbed her phone, and tried to call the real parents. But the call wouldn't go through. It just played a distorted static. Meanwhile, the imposters knocked on the door, softly at first, then harder. "Claire, let us in," they said in voices that cracked like broken radios. For hours, Claire sat trembling, clutching Lily, until dawn light began to creep through the window. The knocking stopped. When she finally gathered courage to open the door, the house was empty, silent. Minutes later, the real parents arrived, apologizing for being late. They looked perfectly normal, carrying leftovers from the dinner. Claire never told them the full story, only that she could never babysit again. But sometimes, late at night, she dreams of those imposters smiling in the hallway, waiting for another chance to come inside.